Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into a collection of really fascinating tales today. Stories sitting right on that edge between, historical fact and just compelling fiction.
That's right. We've got some great sources here looking into these enigmas, these stories that sound so wild, they really make you stop and ask, could that really have happened?
Exactly. And our mission, well, it's to unpack some of the most striking examples from these sources we've got. We want to pull out the key details, the evidence, more maybe the surprising lack of evidence
Right.
that helps us tell the difference, to distinguish between what we're calling legends rooted in reality and these lies masquerading as lore.
It's really a journey into how powerful stories can be, isn't it? Some of these, whether they're true or totally made up, they paint such vivid pictures you almost feel like you need to see them to believe them.
Totally.
So we want to explore not just what the stories are, but maybe what makes them so memorable, so compelling, and how we can actually figure out what's real.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump right in. We should probably start with the stories that, despite sounding completely nuts, history and archaeology actually back them up, the true legends.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the most stunning examples, certainly from the ancient world, has got to be the Antikythera Mechanism.
Oh, this thing is just, it's unbelievable. Found in a shipwreck, right, off a Greek island. Looked like just a corroded lump of bronze at first, but it turned out to be, well, what was it exactly?
It's essentially an ancient Greek analog computer. We're
Mhm.
talking maybe around 100 BCE. Imagine these incredibly intricate bronze beers,
Yeah.
just way beyond what people thought ancient civilizations could build back then.
Wow.
And its purpose? Well, it seems it was designed to predict astronomical positions, eclipses, maybe even figure out the dates for things like the Olympic Games, and with stunning accuracy.
So this wasn't just like a simple calendar or something. It was a genuinely sophisticated machine, way ahead of its time.
Way ahead,
Yeah.
exactly. Its complexity, it kind of hints at this level of technological know-how
Mhm.
that just seemed to vanish for more than 1,000 years afterwards.
Yeah.
It really makes you rethink how technology progresses, doesn't it? Maybe not always a straight line. It whispers about knowledge that was maybe lost.
Yeah.
It's just incredible to think about.
Okay, shifting gears completely now. From ancient high-tech to medieval mass hysteria, let's talk about the dancing plague of 1518.
Right. This is one of those truly bizarre historical events that honestly sounds like pure fiction. It happened in Strasbourg. Apparently, a woman named Frau Trophy had just started dancing like uncontrollably in the street.
So started dancing.
Yeah, and then others joined her. Soon it was dozens, then hundreds of people, just dancing for days, even weeks. People collapsed from exhaustion. Some even died.
And this isn't like a folktale. This is actually documented.
Oh, absolutely. It's in the historical records. Now, historians still argue about the exact cause. You hear theories about mass psychogenic illness, like mass hysteria, or maybe ergot poisoning from bad rye bread.
Right, the phone.
Exactly. The cause is debated, but the event itself, that's a verifiable historical fact. It's just this terrifying, fascinating glimpse into
Yeah.
how collective belief, maybe social stress, maybe physical factors can all collide in these horrifying ways.
Shows how groups can sometimes just spiral, I guess. Okay, from strange behavior to a strange object. The Voynich Manuscript.
Ah, yes. The ultimate mystery book, maybe. It's this 15th century codex, this manuscript, and it's written entirely in a script that nobody, absolutely nobody can read.
Still, after all this time.
Still. And it's filled with these weird illustrations, plants you can't identify,
Yep.
strange-looking astronomical charts, diagrams that look vaguely biological, but not quite right.
So, like, top cryptographers, linguists, AI, they've all tried and failed to crack it.
Everyone. It's resisted every single attempt for centuries. Is it some lost language, a super complex code, or maybe just a brilliant, beautiful hoax designed to look like secret knowledge? We just don't know. What it tells us, though, is how some historical artifacts can just stubbornly refuse to give up their secrets. It pushes the limits of our code breaking, our understanding of the past. Its resistance is the story, in a way.
Speaking of things that are hard to believe and deeply unsettling, the Corpse Synod.
Oh, this is a really dark and frankly grotesque moment from papal history. We're talking 897 CE. Pope Stephen VI, he had the body of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, dug up
Exhumed and
Fumed.
dug up the dead pope. Why?
to put him on trial. Seriously. They dragged the corpse out. It had been buried for about 8 months, dressed it up in papal vestments, propped it on a throne in the basilica.
No!
Yes. And then they formally accused the corpse of various crimes against canon law. A deacon was apparently appointed to answer for the deceased pope.
This is unbelievable.
And, of course, the corpse was found guilty. His papal acts were declared void. The body was stripped. They cut off the fingers he'd used for blessings, and then they threw the body into the Tiber River.
That's horrific.
It really is. Just a horrifying spectacle driven by pure political hatred and power struggles. It shows the extreme lengths people would go to, even desecrating the dead. A truly grim chapter.
Okay, moving into the 20th century. Something maybe equally disturbing because of its scale and, well, its official nature. Project MKUltra.
Yeah, this was chillingly real. A CIA program that ran during the Cold War, basically from the 1950s up into the 1970s. And its whole goal was research into mind control, psychological warfare techniques.
And this is the program that involved, like, experiments on people, often without them knowing, right? Using things like LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation.
That's exactly it. Highly unethical, often illegal experiments on unwitting subjects, citizens, military personnel, prisoners. When the details started coming out in the 70s, thanks to Senate investigations, it caused a massive scandal.
So this isn't some conspiracy theory, it's documented fact.
Documented fact. Declassified files prove it. MKUltra gives us this stark look into the paranoia of the Cold War, the extremes governments were willing to go to. It really blurred the lines between national security and, frankly, horrifying human rights abuses. Forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about state power and secrecy.
Let's shift to something a bit lighter, perhaps, though still legendary. The dancing goats of Kaldi.
Ah, the origin story of coffee. This is a lovely legend, probably embellished, but it attributes coffee's discovery to an Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi way back when.
Right, the story goes he saw his goats getting super energetic.
Yeah, practically dancing after eating berries from a certain bush. So naturally, he tries them himself, feels the buzz, and eventually shares his discovery with monks at a nearby monastery.
And the monks used it to stay awake for prayers.
That's the tale. They supposedly called it the devil's brew at first, but then embraced it. Now, is it literally true? Probably not in every detail. But it's a charming story that captures that moment of discovery, the origin of something now so globally ubiquitous. A beloved legend, even if likely touched up over time.
Okay, back to something definitely real and pretty tense. Operation Paul Bunyan.
This was a very real, very tense U.S. military operation in the Korean Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, back in 1976.
Paul Bunyan. Was it about chopping down a tree?
It was literally about chopping down a tree. The whole thing started when North Korean soldiers attacked and killed 2 U.S. Army officers who were part of a team trimming a poplar tree in the joint security area because it was blocking the view.
Just over trimming a tree.
Just over trimming a tree. It escalated incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
In response, the U.S. launched Operation Paul Bunyan. It was this massive show of force, a huge convoy of vehicles, engineers with chainsaws, heavily armed soldiers, helicopters, even B-52 bombers flying nearby, all just to go in and cut down that specific tree.
Yeah. As a statement, basically.
Exactly. A very clear, very forceful statement of resolve and defiance after the killings. It was incredibly tense, could easily have sparked a wider conflict, but ultimately the tree was cut down without further incident. A bizarre, but very real Cold War standoff.
From military tension to environmental crisis, the Great Stink of London.
Oh, this was absolutely real and apparently absolutely awful. Summer of 1858 in London. The River Thames was basically being used as a giant open sewer for the growing city.
Right, I've heard about this.
And that summer was unusually hot. The heat plus the raw sewage. It created this unbearable, overwhelming stench across the entire city. People were getting sick, tying handkerchiefs over their faces.
So bad that Parliament actually debated, like, packing up and moving the government out of London because the smell in the Houses of Parliament right by the river was just intolerable.
They seriously considered it. It was that disruptive. But the good news, if you can call it that, is that this crisis, this great stink, was a direct catalyst for major change.
It forced them to do something.
It forced them. It spurred the creation of London's modern sewer system, this huge, ambitious project designed by the engineer Joseph Bazalgette. It was a massive undertaking, but it totally transformed sanitation and public health in London and became a model for cities around the world. A real example of how a terrible crisis can sometimes drive essential innovation.
Okay, one last one for this Real Legends section, and this one's about pure, unadulterated nerve, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower.
Ah, Victor Lustig, one of the greatest con artists of all time. This happened back in the 1920s.
He sold the Eiffel Tower. How is that even possible?
Well, he posed as a high-ranking government official. He contacted several major scrap metal dealers, telling them, very confidentially, that due to huge maintenance costs and structural issues, the French government had secretly decided to dismantle and scrap the Eiffel Tower.
No way.
Yes way. He held meetings, presented fake documents, took them on inspection tours. He played on their greed and desire for a huge exclusive deal. He actually collected bids, selected a winner, took a hefty bribe along with the payment,
And then just disappeared.
and vanished with the money. The amazing part, the scrap dealer who got duped was apparently too embarrassed to even report it to the police. Lustig actually tried and succeeded in pulling the same scam again a few months later with a different group of dealers.
He sold it twice.
He sold it twice. It's just this incredible testament to sheer audacity, criminal genius, and maybe, well, how gullible people can be when they think they're onto a massive score. A truly legendary con.
Okay, so those are stories that, however wild they sound, have that anchor in reality. The mechanism, the plague, the synod, MKUltra, the stink, the con, they happened.
They did. They offer these incredible windows into history, tech, human psychology, society, all sorts of things.
It really does make you wonder what other incredible things are just waiting to be uncovered, or maybe hiding in plain sight.
Absolutely. But now let's pivot. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. Stories that are just as compelling, just as vivid, maybe even more so sometimes. But when you actually dig into the history, you find, oh, nothing.
These are the fabrications, the lies masquerading as lore.
Exactly. And often, like you said, they're compelling because they tap into something deep, something we wish were true, maybe.
Like shortcuts to power or hidden knowledge.
Treatise. Take, for instance, the Saturnian time dice.
Okay, what's the story here? Ancient Babylonian dice.
Supposedly. The legend describes these special obsidian dice etched with unique symbols from ancient Babylon. And they weren't just for telling the future, the story goes, but for influencing fate, swaying destiny.
Ooh, okay. That's a tempting idea. A physical object to control fate.
Super tempting, right?
Huh.
But here's the thing. There's absolutely zero archaeological or historical evidence that anything like these dice ever existed.
None at all. No weird dice found in digs, no mentions in texts.
Zip. Nada. Nothing. It seems to be a narrative crafted much later, playing on that mystique surrounding ancient Mesopotamia and our, timeless human desire for control over luck or the future. It really shows how easily we can invent objects to fit a story we want to tell.
Okay, how about something a bit more spiritual? The Monastery of the Silent Sun.
Right. This story is about a fictional monastery, supposedly founded in 12th century Provence in France. The monks there, according to the tale, took a vow of complete silence. They renounced spoken language entirely.
Why?
They believed silence brought them closer to divine understanding. They supposedly communicated only through a complex system of gestures. It's a very beautiful, almost poetic concept, isn't it?
It is, but purely fictional.
Completely fictional. Historical records of monastic orders, even the really obscure ones, are pretty extensive. There is just no mention anywhere in any historical annals of a silent order like this, or this specific retreat existing in Provence or anywhere else in the 12th century, or any other time, really.
So it's just a lovely idea about transcending words, but it only exists as a story.
Exactly. It dissolves under scrutiny.
Okay, here's one that feels maybe extra relevant today, tapping into that whole idea of secret knowledge and grand predictions.
Right.
The Treatise of the Iron Veil.
Ah, this is a fascinating one, because it's a fabrication presented as an old text. The story goes that this is a 17th century political manuscript
Okay.
that somehow managed to predict, with eerie accuracy, the division of Europe into two opposing ideological blocs centuries later, essentially foretelling the Cold War.
Whoa. So like a Nostradamus type thing, but focused on politics?
Kind of. But the key difference is, this treatise isn't actually from the 17th century. It was revealed to be part of a modern historical hoax.
Ah, so somebody wrote it much later to look old and prophetic.
Precisely. It was crafted to seem prescient, playing on our fascination with hidden predictions and the desire to find patterns or secret meanings in history. It's a powerful example of how easily historical narratives can be faked, especially when they seem to offer a hidden key to understanding big, complex world events. That seduction of, I found the secret text.
And speaking of faked history, what about Emperor Faustus the Obscure?
This is a great example of filling a historical gap with fiction. The tale is about a supposed Roman emperor named Faustus. His reign, the story claims, was incredibly brief, tumultuous, and his reforms were so radical, so upsetting to the establishment,
That they erased him.
that his name was deliberately wiped from all records. A damnatio memoriae so total that absolutely no trace remained.
Yeah.
It's a classic trope, isn't it? The powerful figure who was deliberately forgotten.
It makes for a good mystery, but solid historical research confirms no such emperor ever existed.
Absolutely not. Roman historical records, inscriptions, coins, lists of emperors. They're extensive, meticulously studied. There's simply no evidence, no room for a completely erased emperor named Faustus. This story plays on that idea that history might be incomplete, that there are these hidden figures we've just missed. It lets us project onto that imagined blank space.
Okay, back to more modern fabrications. What about the Hollow Cathedral of Reims?
This is a really romantic, fanciful legend. It claims that beneath the famous Reims Cathedral in France, there's another colossal cathedral built secretly underground.
Underground? Why?
Supposedly built back in the 9th century as a hidden refuge from Viking raids, a place to secretly preserve precious religious relics and important texts. Imagine this vast, hidden, sacred space.
That's quite an image. But no evidence.
None whatsoever. Extensive archaeological surveys, ground-penetrating radar, historical studies of Reims and the cathedral. Nothing suggests such a massive underground structure exists or ever existed. It's a lovely, adventurous idea, but completely unsupported by any factual evidence. Just a romantic notion.
And something similar maybe from ancient Egypt, the Serpent Cartouche of Amarna.
Yeah, this one ties into a real historical period of upheaval, the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, who famously tried to change Egypt's religion. The story whispers about a missing hieroglyph, a special cartouche from his time at Amarna.
A cartouche being the oval shape around a royal name.
Exactly. And this missing cartouche supposedly depicted a terrifying serpent god that Akhenaten secretly worshipped or elevated, maybe even above his main god, the Aten.
Okay, that fits the theme of Akhenaten being radical and overturning things.
It does fit the theme, which makes it plausible sounding. But again, despite tons of excavation and study of Amarna artifacts and inscriptions, no such serpent cartouche has ever been found. No evidence supports this specific idea of a secret serpent cult tied to Akhenaten via a unique hieroglyph. It's captivating speculation, but it just never materialized into fact.
Let's dip back into Cold War paranoia, but maybe add a dash of the paranormal. Operation Blind Prophet.
Right, this is pure Cold War fiction, definitely not real like MKUltra. It's this whispered tale about a super top-secret psychic espionage project.
Psychic espionage.
Yeah. The story involves the U.S. military, or maybe CIA, training blind individuals, mystics even, whose other senses, particularly psychic ones, were supposedly enhanced.
It's enhanced how?
To the point where they could hear or telepathically intercept Soviet secrets from afar, like mental eavesdropping across continents.
Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a comic book or a wild spy novel.
It totally does. And while it's true, both sides explored some pretty weird stuff during the Cold War, remote viewing, ESP research, things like that. There is absolutely zero credible documentation or evidence that this specific bizarre program ever existed.
That's just a story.
Just a story. Seems like a narrative spun from that potent mix of Cold War fear, the enemy is everywhere, even in your thoughts, combined with a fascination for the paranormal and psychic powers. Shows how our anxieties and interests can breed these elaborate but totally baseless tales.
Okay, here's a classic trope. The mysterious island. The Isle of Eight Eyes.
Ah, yes. Pure sailor's lore, this one. The story goes back to Portuguese explorers. Supposedly around 1541, they discovered this remote, uncharted island.
And the inhabitants.
The inhabitants were supposedly born with 8 eyes, arranged around their heads, giving them full panoramic vision.
8 eyes. Seriously.
That's the legend. It's a really striking, bizarre image, isn't it? Makes you think of spiders or something alien. It's a compelling account, the kind of tall tale sailors might spin after a long voyage into the unknown.
But widely considered just a myth, no proof.
Widely believed to be a vivid sailor's yarn. There's no verifiable proof, no logs, no maps, no biological possibility acknowledged. It's a fantastic invention, a testament to the power of the unknown sea and maybe the effects of too much sun or rum on long voyages. Highlights that human capacity for fantastical invention.
How about a weird war? The Candle War of Lübeck.
This is a delightful but entirely fictional tale, supposedly from the time of the Hanseatic League, that powerful medieval trading bloc in Northern Europe.
Okay, Hanseatic League, what was the war about?
Candles, specifically beeswax candles. The story claims that in 1422 there was a major dispute over exorbitant tariffs imposed on beeswax by the city of Lübeck. Rival cities got so angry they supposedly declared a candle war.
A war over candles. What did that involve? Launching wicks at each other.
Haha. Well, the story says they launched a naval blockade and perhaps other trade sanctions, all focused on candles. It sounds quaint and slightly absurd.
But it didn't happen.
No historical record of any such candle war exists. Hanseatic politics could be fierce, yes, but this specific conflict seems to be a complete invention, likely from historical fiction or just creative storytelling. It's a charming idea, but not real history.
And for our last fabricated tale, maybe the ultimate dream for scholars and secret seekers, the Library of Whispers.
Ah, yes. The mythical, clandestine repository of forbidden knowledge. The legend places it deep in the catacombs beneath ancient Rome.
And what's supposedly in it?
Everything banned, suppressed, or heretical. Lost scrolls by philosophers condemned by the authorities, texts from mystery cults, scientific ideas deemed too dangerous, all guarded by elaborate riddles and secret societies.
Sounds amazing, like something out of Indiana Jones or the Da Vinci Code.
Exactly. It embodies that eternal human quest for hidden wisdom, for the truths that power structures might want to keep hidden. The ultimate secret library.
But just a myth, no giant underground library found under Rome.
Despite endless rumors and the undeniable allure of the idea, no archaeological expedition, no exploration of Rome's extensive catacombs and tunnels has ever turned up anything remotely resembling this legendary Library of Whispers. It remains a powerful symbol, a dream of lost knowledge, but firmly in the realm of fiction.
Okay, so, wow, we've gone through quite a few stories there. 6 pretty firmly rooted in bizarre reality, and then 10 that, while often just as gripping, seem to be entirely made up.
Yeah, and it really highlights how tricky it can be, right? Sifting through history and myth, legend, and lie, especially when the stories themselves, real or fake, are just so incredibly vivid and memorable.
And you see how those fabricated stories, the lies, often tap into something powerful, our desire for secrets, for control, maybe for explanations that make the world seem more magical or ordered than it is. Hidden libraries, fate-controlling dice, forgotten emperors.
Absolutely. And the key difference, really, when you boil it down, almost always comes back to the evidence, or the lack of it.
Right. The Antikythera Mechanism is a physical object you can study. The Corpse Synod is in papal records, however grim. MKUltra has declassified government reports, witness testimony.
Exactly. Whereas the Saturnian time dice, the silent monastery, the Iron Veil, Faustus, the Candle War, they just crumble when you look for actual proof. There's no trace beyond the story itself.
And even with the legends, the real stories, maybe some details get fuzzy or embellished over time, like exactly how Kaldi's goats danced.
Right.
But there's still that undeniable core event or object or documented phenomenon that anchors it to reality.
Precisely. And knowing the truth, even when it's frankly weirder than any fiction someone could invent, like popes trying corpses or plagues of dancing, it gives you a much deeper, maybe more grounded perspective on the past and on human nature, too.
Our capacity for amazing ingenuity, like mechanism, but also for, well, bizarre behavior, belief, and sometimes terrible action.
Both the light and the dark, yeah.
So this deep dive, it's definitely revealed some truly wild stuff. Uncomfortable truths sometimes, alongside some incredibly creative fictions. But every single one of these tales, real or not, kind of shows how fascinated we are by the mysterious, the unexplained parts of our world and our history.
It's a testament to human curiosity, isn't it? And our imagination. We love a good story, whether it checks out or not.
So maybe we can leave you, the listener, with this thought. We live in an age just flooded with information, right? Stories, claims, real news, fake news, deep fakes. It all spreads like wildfire. How do you approach that task? How do you try to sort out the truth from the deception? What other stories have you come across, ancient or maybe even breaking right now, that make you stop and wonder, is this real? Or is it just a really, really good story?
Yeah, that's definitely something worth pondering these days.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive through legends and lies.